Hi, welcome to another craft video from the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. I'm Cheryl and I'm in charge of the craft kits at the main library. And today's video is to accompany a kit that we'll be giving out starting July 1st, 2024. But if you can't make it to our library or you're watching this later on our YouTube channel, don't worry, I'll tell you everything you need to purchase to make this kit on your own. So today the project we're doing is this cute little postage stamp pin. This is on a backing of polymer clay with a pin back glued to it. And you can make this with regular postage stamps that have been through the mail. So if you get a letter or something with a particularly cute stamp, you can just cut the stamp out and use it as the pin. But we are going to use these clip art images. Now I've gotten these I've licensed these from Adobe because my library has an account, but if you just do a search on the internet for postage stamp clip art, you'll be able to find lots of images that you can use. So what you'll have in the kit, or what you'll need to purchase if you don't have a kit, is obviously you'll need to have some images of postage stamps. You will need some polymer clay, and this can be any color of polymer clay. It doesn't matter because it's just going to be the backing. You might want to do white or black or some sort of neutral color, but I think in this case I just happen to have some green laying around, so we'll do that. You will also have a pin back, some E6000 glue, and this is to glue the pin on the back. You will have some gloss Mod Podge. Now this is decoupage glue. This particular one is gloss. The one I did this initially with, this first one, was matte. So I'm going to show you both of them. But the one you'll have in the kit is gloss. You will have a paintbrush to brush on the Mod Podge, and this is just to seal the paper of the stamp image. You will also need a pair of scissors to cut out the stamp image. You will need something to roll out the clay with. Now, you can use, I normally have a little dowel rod, a fat dowel rod, but I can't find that today. So I think what I'm going to do today is I'm going to just use this paint marker. It's kind of fat. And I'm going to use this as a roller to roll out a thin sheet of this. You will need some sort of thing to cut with, so I'm just using a plastic knife I had laying around. You can use a regular knife. Be sure if you use a regular knife, I would say be sure to clean it very, very well afterward. Most likely should probably use something that's not going to be used with food, so I would suggest a plastic knife, an X-Acto knife. Frankly, with these, I couldn't find my X-Acto knife and I couldn't find my plastic knife. So what I did is I trimmed it out with my scissors. So in a pinch, you can actually do that. Okay. You will also need a workspace, something to work on. This happens to be a plastic lid from a craft supply tub. You can put down a piece of paper or parchment paper or wax paper or something like that just to cover your surface. If you're working on like a table, you can do that. You will also need something to bake it on. This clay stays soft. This is polymer clay. It stays soft until it is baked. This particular one gets baked. This is, I believe, Sculpey brand, and it is baked at 275 degrees and 25 minutes for every 1/4 of an inch of thickness. This is about 1/8 of an inch thickness, so I only gave it 20 minutes. And that was fine. Now you can take a piece of paper and put it on a baking sheet. I baked mine, frankly, on a piece of cardstock, white cardstock, because the burning point of paper is 451 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's going to be much more than what you're actually going to have in the oven. So if you don't have a cookie sheet or something, you can just bake it on a piece of paper. But I would put a piece of paper or some aluminum foil or parchment paper down to protect your baking sheet, because, as I said, you don't really want to use this on things that are going to be touching food later. Okay, so what we're going to do, first of all, if you've never worked with polymer clay before, let me get it out of the bag. It's a little bit stiff sometimes, and you'll need to, and some colors are stiffer than others, so you may need to massage it a little bit more on some colors than others. But you basically want to kind of knead it until it's a good workable consistency. It shouldn't get super soft, but it should be kind of mushy to the touch. If it's really, really firm or cracks, then keep kneading it with your hands until it softens up. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of flatten it, and I'm going to need to roll out a thin layer, and I am shooting for about 1/8 of an inch thick is what I normally like to shoot for. You can also use, if you don't have anything to use to roll it out, you can also use a round jar, like a jelly jar or something, and use that, because you don't need a lot of pressure for this. You just need it to be even. Okay, I'm gonna lift this up and see. Now this seems to be sticking a little, so I think I am going to scrape this up, and I'm going to do this on a piece of paper, because this color seems to be sticking a little bit onto my plastic. Let's try this again. You can also do this on wax paper, but you can't bake it on wax paper, because the wax, if you put the wax paper in the oven, it will melt. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, now I need to get an image, and I've got some of different sizes, smaller, bigger. This is going to be the size of your pin back. So this came with a couple of really tiny ones. I don't recommend using that because my pin back is going to be too big for those, but it should work for any of the others. So I've got green clay, so let's see if I can do a green one. You know what? I think I want to do that one. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it out. Now you are welcome to cut it straight, or if you want to simulate the jagged edges of a stamp, you can do this back and forth and back and forth. So you see how that looks. And or you can just do it straight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this down on our clay, kind of burnish it a little, and we are going to just trim off the sides. Now if you're using a plastic knife like this one, it's got a serrated edge. So you can then just clean it up, the edges, by gently pressing the edges to smooth them out. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to bake this in the oven at 275 degrees. I'm going to preheat my oven before, and when it comes up to temperature, then I'm going to put this in. I'm just going to put this right in there. I'm going to bake it for about 20 minutes because it's a fairly thin, it's not a 1/4 of an inch, so I'll just bake it for about 20 minutes. And when you take it out, be very careful because it will be hot because it's been in the oven. So let it cool down to room temperature before you touch it. I'll be back after it's been baked. And we're back. And I have baked this one. I've let it cool all the way down. And it's solid now, so it's ready to be worked with. Now, I have my decoupage glue. Now this decoupage glue is not just used for sealing the paper, but it's also used for gluing the paper on. So I'm going to take this and just do a nice thin layer like that. You don't need thick layers of decoupage glue. You need them very, very thin. And I'm going to glue that on. And kind of pull it, rub it from the center outward to get any air bubbles out. And then I'm going to do a very thin layer this way. You don't want to do too thick of a layer because it will be absorbed by the paper and it may cause your postage stamp image to go a little wavy. So you want it to be just as thin as possible with the layers. I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do another layer. And I might even seal up the edges here to make sure that the edges of the paper are nice and sealed, and that all the corners, whoops, and that all the corners are nice and glued down. So I've put a second coat on it. It's pretty dry to the touch now. So now I'm ready to glue the pin back on. I like to use E6000 glue for gluing on pin backs and things. It's a very sturdy glue. When you open up one of these smaller tubes, it will be sealed underneath. And in order to break the seal, on the back of the lid, there's a little pointy thing. You'll unscrew this. You will push that down on that seal until you break the seal, and then you're ready to use it. Now the way I like to do it is the pointy tip is going to go to the bottom. So I'm going to put just a kind of a dab of the glue on there. And I'm going to, I like to put it slightly a little, like maybe a third, 2/3 of the way up. If you put a pin back straight in the center, when you wear it, it might have a tendency to flop down. So it's actually best if you put the pin back closer up toward the top than toward the bottom. Okay, I'm going to put the lid back on here. And I'm just going to let that set to dry and cure for at least a couple of hours. It should dry to the touch in a couple of hours, and then it should be fully cured and permanent in about 24 hours. And that's it. Super simple and super cute. And that's all there is to it. So thanks for viewing another craft video from the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. I'm Cheryl. I'll see you next time. Bye.